what's going on? Dusty D here. Today I'm going to run you through a minimal tutorial for how to achieve motion in your drink photography. And man, why not spice up your product photography portfolio with a little bit of motion? It just takes a second to elevate a normal shot and add a really elusive, silky quality to something that's already kind of charming in a base level. Now in last week's tutorial, we used a 360 product photo spinner to light up a sneaker ad. In a similar vein, we're going to be using motion in today's episode by using this dolly. It's a rolling dolly. Our friends at Kingjoy hooked us up with this. And it has the light stand attachment, so we hooked it up to our surface support plate and black acrylic to create a kind of dynamic mobile rolling shooting table. I'll link everything below the video that we used to create this rig. All right, let's bring out an 8x36 inch Stripbox, our primary light source today, with a Speedlight in it. And we'll be shooting at f11, ISO 400, 1/200th of a second. As a general rule of thumb, if I'm dealing with drinks or glassware and need nice big highlights, I'll bring out a bigger diffusion source than I even think I need. That advice doubles if your glassware is bulbous. And my glassware is extremely bulbous, so I'm on high alert here. But this should serve as a nice primary highlight from the left with a reverse reflection. And we could probably pan up a little to have some more splash room. We don't need this room down here. You see our acrylics getting the reflection. Now this highlight could be bigger. One of the nice things about a diffusion roll is you have opportunities to clamp things on a plane, which can pretty much let you set reflections on your terms and block things off like I just did here. And I do that all the time, especially if I have something noisy or bright in the room that's going to distract. But it gives you an opportunity just to show off the material finish and get nice clean cut lines, and which is why I usually keep them there. It adds something to the shoot and it lets you control things. It's a lot more control. These are the little tweaks we want to make while we still have control before we bring in the chaos of a liquid. Maybe back in the day, I would have settled for a dark gray background, but bringing this into Photoshop, I definitely want to get it into pure black, even if that means brightening this up a little bit. I know it looks a little muddy. Now these highlights look a fair bit darker here, so I should enhance these. And instead of using a stronger flash setting, I'm going to bring in an additional speedlight to the front of our set. I'll put this on a really low power, like 1/64th, and just make sure the angle is aligned with our Stripbox. Now since flash power negatively correlates with flash briefness, how quickly your flash captures motion, I'd rather use multiple lights below 1/32nd power rather than using one above, and that'll freeze the motion better, or at least it should in theory. And we can blend these values to get somewhere in between, but whenever you're wondering how people get really milky, consistent highlights, often it's multiple lights sprawling throughout the diffusion to achieve that in a kind of simple way. And the idea is we're going to get some refraction from this big diffuser in here. So we have the bright highlight, but it flips in the liquid. So hopefully once we begin spinning this, all the fruits of our labor will pay off here and having this big milky setup, and it will pay dividends in the liquid. Let's find out. We went on an absolute capturing spree, tried a bunch of stuff. Sometimes we got good results on the side we weren't intending, but a lot of strong motion and using the wheels to get a good swaying motion out of the glass, and we got pretty consistent by the end. You saw the motion we're going for. It was mostly about capturing the right slice of time to get something that looks not like that, but like that. So I always got to make it a little tricky for you guys, you know that. So we're going to combine two frames together. Please join me in the edit. You can download the frames below and follow along with me in the edit. So we'll grab this frame, and our clean slates to fix any areas that got a little buck wild. And I'll meet you guys inside of Photoshop. A quick thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring today's workflow. I'm on Skillshare, so for anyone looking to expand their creativity or skill set, Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. If you're a member on Skillshare, you'll get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes with hands-on projects and a feedback from a community of millions. If you're not sure where to start, Fundamentals of DSLR Photography by Justin Bridges is a Skillshare original and great place to get your feet wet. It's curated specifically for learning, so there's no ads. I like that. They're always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow your creativity wherever it takes you. Thanks, Skillshare. Now let's hop into Photoshop. All right, people, here we are inside of Photoshop. We have our 3 frames. They're looking delicious, and let's combine them together. So I'm going to bring the base frame to the top and put it on difference mode. And the reason I do that is just so I can see the other 2 layers and how misaligned they are. So let's go to the mini splash, and I'll just move that over. Maybe use my arrow keys. And then the mega splash, I'll do the same thing. And that's a really efficient way to do that with one difference mode layer. And once they're aligned, go back to normal. And now we're ready to composite our image because they're all aligned, even though we invoke some motion, give or take a millimeter. Now I want to make sure our background is clean. So let's see with a curves layer. Our eyes, we can't trust our eyes. Let's do a crazy curve layer and see if there's any noise in the background. And if there is, let's make a curve layer beneath it. And just drag this node down here, which will clip everything really efficiently. And just drag it over until everything's on a flat black background. So we're just using the curve layer to see what our eyes can't and just be confident we're on a pure black background, which is really helpful, especially if we're brightening anything. Like if I make a curve layer and I drag it upward, now I'm confident I'm not bringing anything weird out of the background. I'm just enhancing my image subtly, which is a nice decision to have at your fingertips. All right, now we can get rid of our top nuclear curve layer and we can group these 3 frames. Let's hit Control G. And now they're grouped. And as I flip through them there, slight misalignment, I think, here. I'll just use my arrow keys to go down and to the left slightly. And just align those better. There we go. Now these are pretty clean. We want them on a clean black background. So let's get a marquee selection out. And let's use our tallest frame just to make sure we're safe. And I'm going to make a selection around it. Now, because we did that curve layer, we know all of this is black, so we don't have to be worrying about it. We can just hit the mask button, and we know that's on a perfect black background now on any monitor. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a little dust or debris. So let's go to the mask, get out a black brush, and let's look at each of our frames and get rid of any nonsense. Like that. So let's start compositing by bringing the base frame to the bottom and bringing in each of our splash frames. So hold Alt and give it a black mask by clicking that button. And then with a white brush, just paint it back in. That way you have the best of both worlds, and the base frame is going to keep things nice and clean. Now, I like the base frame right here, but I do not like the splash frame. So it's going to take a little finesse to get that looking good. But I like to start with a crude mask to be sure all the data I want here is here. And then we can worry about the finesse. So that looks good. Let's hit P to bring out our pen tool. And maybe we'll just make a little selection around here, honestly. Maybe we'll just go around the horn like that. And that's pretty close. Might be off a little at the bottom, but we can tweak it. And once you've completed your path, go to the Paths tool, Control click. You've made a selection. And what we want to do is paste black in that selection, which I'll achieve by hitting Alt Delete. And then with a black brush, I will just make that a little more subtle in areas where we screwed up a tiny bit. Okay, I'll make it a little blurred down here with the black brush, and that's pretty clean. So now we brought in the splash, and I'm happy with the change that had, the effect that had on our image. I don't like the body looking empty down here, so we brought in this other splash that we will similarly hold Alt and make a black mask for. And then in that black mask, paint it in with a white brush. And that is the fun of compositing. And I'll try to combine these in a way where it looks kind of believable in the middle. I'm using the black brush here, and whenever I switch brushes really quick, I'm just hitting X, which is a really good shortcut when you're compositing with masks. Now we could use a warp mesh tool to get this curve even more exact, but it's pretty good just blending them together to the point where you zoom out and they look pretty natural. Let's merge these layers together by grabbing them all, hitting Control E, and then Control J to duplicate that layer. Now we're going to clean this duplicated layer, and I'd like to use the patch tool. You can hit J to bring that up. And I'm going to make little selections around anything that distracts from the result, anything from bubbles to dust to a reflection. And, you know, if it doesn't add to the image, take it away. All right, there we go. What do we think? One tweak I might make is flipping the bottom, the stem. Whenever I light it kind of informally, the stem, I don't focus on it. I like to grab the side I like better. In this case, it's the right side. I'll hit Control J, which essentially isolates this frame. And I'll hit Control T, right click, flip horizontal. And the eye likes symmetry, so that works a bit. And I'll turn it on and off to make sure I'm not distorting the shape of the stem. That looks good. And obviously it's not going to blend completely naturally up here, so I will get out a mask, get out a black brush, and I will black brush it just so it seamlessly blends in a little smoother up here, and no one will be the wiser. I'm going to make one more curves layer, and I'm going to invert it so it's invisible. I do that by hitting Control I in the mask, and it's a brightening effect. And I'll paint that brightening effect with a white mask as opposed to a black mask, just in the kind of corner here where some light might build up through refraction. And that's kind of characteristic of these shots, so I just want to be able to tweak that on and off. Maybe that's a little heavy, but I'll just do something like that to give us a little kick of light. The last tweaks I would maybe consider making are just getting these kind of foggy areas knocked down to black, just curving down the whole existence of the black areas of the glassware in general. Like I might make an effect here with the curves layer, something really stark like this, and then invert the mask, Control I, and with the brush I'll hit B, get that white brush out, and white brush just up and down the middles so we get great clarity through the glass. That has a good effect when you're looking at the image and you kind of just intuitively understand the material finish and that this is really crystal clear glass. That coincides nicely with our harsh reflections, which convey glossiness. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Make sure to thumb up the video if it helped you out, because it really helps us out. And if you want to learn about the surface support plate or the reflective surface we used here today, we create our own attachments here, and we link them below in the top of the description, so make sure to check that out. If you want to learn about the dolly, the rolling dolly, I'll link it below. It's made by Kingjoy. They hooked us up with it, thanks Kingjoy, and it really helped us harness the motion, something to do with math and physics and all that great stuff. So stay breezy, take it easy, make sure to subscribe here on Workflow, and I'll see you next time. My name's Dustin Dolby. Farewell.